We're sitting here with Olivier, who is our gubernatorial candidate for the state of California, and you're with the Libertarian Party, right?
Yes, that's right.
And boy, it's great to have you here on our show. We challenged all the candidates to come on our show, mainly because people like Dianne Feinstein and Arnold Schwarzenegger and the traditional candidates so far have kind of ignored the people. They've kind of developed their own little agenda, and they're blithely going about it, ignoring what the people want. So people like Art here have decided to come on our show and take us up on the offer, and I want to thank you for doing that, Art. Sure. And what we want to know as constituents to be, hopefully, what your positions are, and just quite, in your own words, tell us basically what your feelings are, and what California is going to get if you become governor.
Well, first of all, I would like to see the government smaller. Government is just way too big in California, and it's getting bigger. Just 3 years ago, we recalled Gray Davis because of his irresponsible budget. He proposed a $96 billion budget. They ended up passing a $101 billion budget, but he proposed a $96 billion. We thought, that's too much, you're out of here, we need somebody a little more responsible.
Right.
Now we got Arnold Schwarzenegger. In 3 years, he not only proposed, but passed a $131 billion budget.
Oh my goodness.
That's a 35% increase in 3 years, when we already had, our budget was too big in the beginning.
We already had to borrow money to pay the budget before.
Yeah, and so we're just getting further and further into debt. He's got $43 billion in bonds coming up on the November election. He wants people to vote for those. It's just completely out of control. He got lucky this year because of the real estate boom. And they've had some record revenues coming into the state. But, those booms don't last forever.
Yeah. Corporate business has done pretty good lately, too.
Yeah.
Not the little guy, but the big guy, yeah.
Well, yeah, with Google going public, that brought in a lot of money to the state.
Yes.
But that's not going to happen again next year. And I don't think the real estate boom. I think the real estate boom is over.
Well, it's not a problem of revenue, as I see it. It's more a problem of where the money's being spent. There's plenty of money coming into the state.
Right, absolutely.
It's just, why do we have to be in debt when there's so much money coming in, and it's just being misallocated?
Absolutely, yeah. That's.
So what are you going to do about it as governor?
Well, my budget, the budget that I present to the legislature is going to be a lot smaller than our current budget.
Uh-huh.
We're going to reduce the size of government.
Good.
And in every single aspect. You look at a lot of the bonds and how they're going to spend the money. $20 billion for transportation, $10 billion for schools. Mm-hmm. But you look how that money is being spent right now.
Not well.
It's not the problem of not having enough money. It's how they spend it. In schools, when you build a school, you have to use the Field Act.
Yes.
This is a Depression era act that was created to create better earthquake standards for schools. Well, the entire Uniform Building Code now has earthquake standards.
Right.
We don't need the Field Act anymore. And what the Field Act does is it makes it so only just a select few contractors can bid on the jobs for schools. They have to go through the State Department of Architects. They can't. It's very. They have to use prevailing wages. And what happens is schools cost twice as much to build as they would if they would use the Uniform Building Code.
So you would repeal the Field Act?
Absolutely, repeal the Field Act. And in the same thing with the transportation, we could cut out, all the prevailing wages. Anything that gives one contractor an advantage over another contractor. We want the low bids. We want to get the best bang for our buck, not throwing out a bunch of money and wasting it.
So what you're saying then is you're looking for sensible government that uses common sense, that isn't wasteful, and what else? Did I leave something out?
No. And another thing on the transportation, the voters enact a lot of initiatives.
Yes.
And a lot of them are really good. And one of them that they enacted was to make sure that the sales tax from gasoline goes into building highways.
Right.
Well, every year, Governor Davis and Governor Schwarzenegger have said, we don't really have enough money this year, so we're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So they reallocate the money into other things. But there's a huge billions and billions of dollars that we're bringing in.
What the voters told them to do.
Right.
They ignored it.
The initiative is the law of the state. That's the way it works.
Yeah. That brings up the next question. Of course, one of the reasons why you're on our show is the voters in this area have voted strongly to support medical marijuana. The state of California and 11 other states now have medical marijuana. The people have spoken. Yet, in California, as in other states too, law enforcement is refusing to enforce the law. What do you plan to do if you become governor to help enforce the will of the people, SB 420 and Prop 215?
Well, that's the governor's job. The governor's job is to faithfully execute the law. And I know there are county sheriffs out there that are violating 215.
Right.
The cities are getting around it. They're saying, well, we're going to put a moratorium on any medical marijuana dispensaries in the city. There are all sorts of government agencies that are making end runs around the law.
Right.
So
trying to subvert the will of the people.
Yeah, so you need a governor that is going to faithfully execute the law. And if there are agencies out there that don't want to do it, well, then this governor is not going to want to fund them.
Oh, no.
And that gets their attention. Any government agency, real quick. They're not getting state funding, they'd make a U-turn. And another thing is, when the county sheriffs and local law enforcement, when they cooperate with the federal government to do raids,
they get money for that, right?
Well, yeah, they probably get money back from the federal government. Yeah. But they better make sure that's going to be more than what they're getting from the state, which is not, because they're not going to get state funding if they cooperate with the federal government to violate our law.
Well, that's enough for me. I personally don't like the fact the federal government keeps coming into our local law enforcement and somehow intimidating them, or maybe they do it. Maybe they don't even need intimidation. Maybe these guys just enjoy going around and beating up defenseless medical marijuana patients. I don't know.
I don't know. I think, you're probably right, though, when you're talking about federal government grants, it may help them get the grants. Maybe they just don't like the fact that they have medical marijuana in their community. Maybe they're getting, instructions from their ears.
That's ignorance. Actually, the police would do so much better if medical marijuana law was enforced, because it would take care of people that have a lot of problems with drugs, and it'd get them off the police's back. Marijuana has a lot of therapeutic values.
Well, and there are good police force throughout California.
Sure, there are some.
And they're working hard to try to follow the law. Yeah. It's not all of them, but the ones that are not, that are not following the law,
in Southern California,
they need to be punished.
We've only got Riverside County, Los Angeles, and who else?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara. Those are the only counties in Southern California that's issuing the ID cards. Now, that ID card may not seem like a big deal, but it's the only thing that patients have right now to keep from being abused by law enforcement. And counties like San Bernardino and San Diego are fighting it tooth and nail. They want to overturn Prop 215, even though 80% of the people want it.
It's already the law, and it's not just. One county has ID cards, they can go anywhere in the state with marijuana. Another county doesn't, and you can be arrested. This is not just.
Okay, ideally we wouldn't need the card at all.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We got to have a uniform procedure throughout California.
Right. So do you believe that we need to reclassify marijuana, or
the federal government?
How do you feel about the classification?
No. Federal government.
Well, at the federal level.
Yeah. When you have conflict, my job will be to faithfully execute the law. It doesn't really say state law or federal law. Right. But when there's a conflict between state and federal law, then you got to go back to the Constitution.
Right.
The Constitution is very clear.
Yeah.
Anything that's not included in the Constitution, the federal government doesn't have the authority to do it. So when we're talking about
both constitutions, actually, the state of California Constitution and the federal Constitution, both give powers to the states.
Right.
And the state of California Constitution says if there's a conflict, the state law prevails.
It does, exactly. And so that's the way I'm going to execute the law.
Great.
And since classification wasn't a constitutional thing.
How do you feel about prohibition in general?
Well, I'm opposed to prohibition. And again, the federal government doesn't have the legal authority to do it. Back when they decided that they were going to outlaw alcohol in the United States, they wrote a constitutional amendment to do so.
That was the only way they could do prohibition.
Yeah, that's the only way they could do it constitutionally. It had to be in the Constitution.
Right.
So they passed it, and then of course it didn't work out so well.
Not so well.
And so they passed another constitutional amendment to repeal it. And that's what should be done if they want, the federal government thinks they need to outlaw drugs.
No, that will never happen.
No, the states wouldn't pass it. So, I'm opposed to the federal government being involved in the drug war at all, of course. Now, as far as being the governor, what can I do about it? Well, you got to pick your battles.
Right.
And Prop 215 is clearly, making medical marijuana legal in the state of California. So that's one I'm going to be pushing. Another one that I'll be pushing is Tom McClintock's industrial hemp bill.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
If the legislature passes that, I'll sign it
It's
in a
already
heartbeat.
passed. It's
already
sitting on the
passed.
governor's desk
Okay.
now.
And it hasn't been signed,
Right.
at least now.
Well,
If you're governor, we know it'll get signed. So.
that'll definitely get signed. And those are the things that I can do as governor. Because I don't write laws, I don't repeal laws.
right.
Those are the things that I can do. So all the other drug laws.
So when you say-
I really can't do anything about that as governor. But
Except make noise.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, work with the legislature. to
Well, you're making a lot of noise here for us on this show, and it's very important what you're doing. It's very important to the voters to have heard your position and to know how you stand. We have invited other people that have opposing views to ours, and they have declined to come on our show, of course. But
If people want to get a hold of you, how would they go about that?
Well, the best way to do it is on the internet, electart.com.
Great.
And we got a really good website up there, and a lot of information. I don't hide from the issues on there.
No, I actually have been there. That's how we got in touch with you.
So.
And I did read over your issues, and it's very easy. You're very clear. It's wonderful.
okay. Well, is there anything else you want to add that we've left out that is important to your platform?
No, just that people really need to start voting for what they want. Don't vote for what the politicians want, what the special interest groups want, when they have hundreds of millions of dollars on commercials for TV commercials.
Absolutely.
You got to be asking yourself, where do they get that money? They get it from special interest groups because the special interest groups are going to make billions of dollars off the policies of the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah.
So, what they tell you on TV, you really got to think about it and do a little bit of research.
Right.
In this November, no on all the bonds.
Don't want all of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is
Yeah.
a waste of money. It's just throwing good money after bad. There's Proposition 90, which is a good one, and Proposition 1A, which again says you can't spend the sales tax money on gasoline and other things. Even though we already passed it, they're going to say it again.
Yeah.
So that's a good one too. And but everything else doesn't make any sense.
Excellent. That's really good, and I hope everybody will vote their conscience come November. And if you have a good conscience, you'll vote for good people.
Like Olivier.
So I take it I got the endorsement here?
Well, listen, we're not endorsing anyone.
Okay, all right.
What we're saying is that we appreciate
people.
what you've done, and we can see that you are an honest, good person. And, I can vouch for that part. Anyway, we don't know what you're going to do as a governor, except for what you've told us.
Which
And
was
believe
much
me, I would
appreciated.
like to give you a chance, because so far, personally, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but personally, I don't believe the current administration is doing the job that people want them to do. And it's time that the people of this country stand up and say, enough already, let's get some people in there that will listen to us and do what we want them to do, instead of believing that they're the ones anointed by God to dictate to everyone else.
Right. Yeah, and it's not as I don't have a track record.
Right.
Yeah.
Our governor, we elected our governor in 2003. Nobody knew what he was all
Right.
about. He had no record, and
Right.
I think most people are very disappointed.
Yes.
So I was the mayor of Bellflower. I had sat on the city council. I've had quite a few government positions. So I've always steered a steady ship towards smaller government,
Great.
and
Great.
I think that's what we need.
So
in
you've had
California.
experience. So, we're not going to elect someone here that doesn't have experience. So anyway, thank you very much for
All
coming
right.
on our show. And
Thank
good
you.
luck coming November. And it was great having you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.